Super Bowl 54 takes place this weekend, and with it marks the end of another rollercoaster football season and the sad reality that there will be no more football until preseason opens once again in August. It's a horrible thought, it's one that no football fan likes to hear, but if only there was a league that could somehow fill the gap between now and the start of preseason. Luckily for us, Vince McMahon has taken his wrestling instincts and applied them to football once again, bringing back the XFL, which starts on February 8th. But there's just one minor problem. As revolutionary as the XFL was and still poises to be, with a bunch of exciting new rule changes, if you don't live in any of the 8 cities which have been selected to host teams in its inaugural season, you can be left with a bit of a question. And you may be left there thinking, hey, Liam, which XFL team is right for me? Well, lucky for you, I've been up all hours of the night, all hours of the morning, making the ultimate grading criteria. It is foolproof. You're going to find your XFL team right here today. So whether you're a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, a different football team, or maybe you just like John Cena and want to see wrestlers play football, either way, this is your ultimate XFL guide. But before we get into today's video, guys, make sure you leave a like if you enjoy this content and hit that subscribe button. Think of this like one big offense. With 3rd and 15, we want a first down. I'm the quarterback, I'm throwing you the ball, and you're the wide receiver. Are you going to make that reception and catch the content I'm giving you by hitting that subscribe button? If you are, we get a first down, and if you're not, I might be sacked in the morning, and we don't want that. So make sure you leave a like, hit subscribe, and as always, your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage can be found from myself and all of our team at phillysportsnetwork.com. We're going to start this off alphabetically, and unfortunately for Eagles fans, that does mean mentioning that dreaded D word, Dallas. Their team is named the Renegades, and their logo does look like something that is just being created in Madden. It is dreadful. So we're going to give the logo a 3 out of 10. But as for the uniform, I actually really like them. Like, this color scheme does look really, really nice. I think the light blue sits with the black quite well. I suddenly feel like I'm on an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. These are really nice uniforms. As far as uniforms go, these may be some of the nicest in the XFL. So they get an 8 out of 10 for that. In terms of what to expect, they've got head coach Bob Stoops, who of course spent a lifetime as a coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, was a 6-time Big 12 Coach of the Year, and is definitely the most high-profile name among the coaching circle in the XFL right now. He spent 18 years at the Sooners, and bizarrely in a recent interview said that ahead of the XFL, the difference is that he's not working with broken down kids, and he's working with fully developed personalities, which A, is very mean to Sam Bradford. Let's not be mean to Sammy Sleeves here, and B, I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, this guy clearly understands how to coach a team, how to build a winning program. I mean, hell, his team's finished in the top 10 11 of the 18 times, with 7 of them being inside the top 5 during his time as a Sooner. So there's definitely cause for a lot of optimism. And if we're going to grade the coaching eye, we're going to give it, I reckon, a 9. What about notable players? Well, quarterback Landry Jones is going to be out for week 1 with an injury. Landry Jones being the same man that did this. They've got running back Lance Dunbar, a very intriguing wide receiver prospect in Gerald Hurd, and their first pick of the XFL draft was wide receiver Jeff Burdett, who of course, as many will know, is a former Sooner himself. It's a fairly nice roster. Like, there isn't much to pick at here. There are a couple of names that jump out of you, so we'll give that a nice 7.5 out of 10. As for former Eagles, we've got Freddie Martino, Josh Hawkins, Asante Brown, and Winston Craig. There aren't many notable former Eagles. So for former Eagles, I think we'll grade them 3.5 out of 10. It's a bit underwhelming. Which means, according to Pro LJ Focus, the Dallas Renegades come in with a finalized score of 30.5 on the rating scale. So just over halfway, with the final score being 50. Let's move on and see what the other teams can do. On to the DC Defenders, who are of course located in DC, and their logo is... it's alright. I don't know what lightning bolts have to do with defending anything. I'm sure that lightning bolts will actually be dangerous, but I do like the red and white colour scheme, being a Charlton fan. So the logo itself gets around 5.5 out of 10, but the colours, the execution of the colours, and I promise, again, I'm not being biased just because of Lyle Taylor, but look at these. These are really fresh uniforms. Like, I think I prefer these to what we saw from the Dallas Renegades. It's just clean. There's no mess. There's no weird bar at the top, which I don't know what was going on with the Dallas uniforms, but I like it. I like these uniforms, so from me, they get a 9 out of 10. The head coach is Pep Hamilton, who has spent plenty of time around the NFL as a positional coach and a brief stint as an offensive coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts between 2013 and 2015. Most recently, he was down in Michigan working with Jim Harbaugh as the assistant head coach and passing game coordinator. So, you're hoping to see a varied background as someone that has worked with plenty of college and NFL programs to hopefully take advantage of some of these rule changes. I give the hire a 7 out of 10. In terms of notable players, there are a few. They've got Tyree Jackson at quarterback, Eli Rogers at wide receiver, and I always had a bit of a draft crush on Scooby right back when he first came out in 2016. The 7th round pick that never really amounted to anything, but did end up signing with the Arizona Hotshots before journeying back into the NFL once the AAF collapsed. So overall, some notable sleeper names from the NFL, but again, nothing of real drastic relevance. 4 out of 10. Now, if we're talking former Eagles, there are a bunch. Sorry for the pun, it had to be done. Running back Donnell Pumphrey headlines the list as probably the most recognizable name, with defensive tackle Elijah Qualls, who is a big, beefy defensive tackle out of Washington. I was really high on him when the Eagles took him. You've then got John Toth, who was a prioritized undrafted free agent, wide receiver DeAndre Tompkins, and of course, offensive tackle Malcolm Bunch. There are a nice list of names here. The defenders have the most former Eagles players on the roster, and for that, they get a 7. That brings us to a total score of 32.5, pushing them ahead of the Renegades according to the Pro LJ Focus rankings. On to team number 3, the Houston Roughnecks. I don't get the name of that at all. I mean, anything to do with Houston other than Roughnecks. Okay, it is what it is. The logo is alright. It is blatantly a rip-off of the former Oilers logo, and I don't know why they could. Maybe it was copyrighted or something like that. You can see the inspiration, but the colour scheme, I don't know. I really don't know about that. It's okay. It does look very generic, very Madden created. So for the logo, we're going to go a 5. For the colours, we're going to probably go with a 5. I mean, they're not great, are they? Now, June Jones, who is a former player and former NFL head coach, recently spent time with the Hamilton Tiger Cats as their head coach over in the CFL. And, well, he left the CFL with a 14-14 record after taking over a team that was 0-8. It's certainly not bad. It could have been worse. We're giving him a 6. As for notable players, Connor Cook, formerly of the Oakland Raiders, I'd be very intrigued to see what he could do at this level. And former NFL defensive end Coney Ely, who of course has had some issues of his own, but I think could be a really strong signing for this Roughnecks team. And they've got a kicker called Sergio Castillo, who just sounds good, so we're going to put him on the list as well. 6 out of 10. As for former Eagles, we've got Trey Elston, Eugene Harris, D'Angelo Henderson, Toby Weathersby, and Gabe Wright. Again, it's bang average. The Houston Roughnecks are the most bang average team in the XFL according to the Pro LJ Focus grading scale, giving them a final score of 26 out of a possible 50. So they're very, very close. They're very, very close. But I think the former Eagles bias and the defender's uniform would give them an edge here. The Los Angeles Wildcats. Now, the logo itself, it's just the letters LA. I don't know about that. It's a bit lazy, isn't it? Bit lazy. We're going to give that a 2, actually. I'm not a fan of that. As for the colours, that looks like someone's designed that on Microsoft Paint. So that's a 3. It's not been a good start. But they are going to make up some points for their head coach Winston Moss, who is a Super Bowl champion. That's right. Not as a head coach, though. I mean, he's only been a positional coach during his time in the NFL. But he's worked with teams like the Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, and of course the Green Bay Packers, where he was eventually promoted to assistant head coach under Mike McCarthy in 2007. And for that alone, for that kind of prowess, we're going to give the coaching hire a nice 7. I mean, it's not amazing. He hasn't got head coaching experience, but he's been around the NFL long enough to at least be ready to make the jump at a lower level. Now, as for notable players, there are several. I always had a bit of a draft crush. Cornerback Harlan Miller. You've got wide receiver Nelson Spruce, running back Elijah Hood, and safety Jerome Coughlin. A lot of these names should ring a few bells. I'm going to give him a 6.5. All right, we're going to be generous. We're going to lift it up a bit because, I mean, hey, if Connor Cook gets 6, then I think Nelson Spruce and Elijah Wood should be able to get 6.5. As for former Eagles, there aren't many. It's about a 3, lads. It's not looking good. And that leaves the Los Angeles Wildcats with a final grade of 21.5. Basically telling you, if you don't live in LA, don't bother following them, alright? It's not worth the hassle. Moving on to the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, I couldn't tell you what a Battlehawk is. Is it a hawk you put into battle? Is it a hawk that likes battling? Is it a Beyblade? I don't know. But the logo, pretty cool, alright? And the uniforms, also pretty cool. The color schemes are nice. I think they're laid out very subtly. It's very clean. The color schemes are cool. 8.5 for the logo and the uniform. You can't complain here. This is a really sick looking team. Their head coach is someone that did briefly overlook with Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. Rivalry alert! Went on to the Cincinnati Bengals to coach their tight end between 2003 and 2018, where of course he oversaw the growth of some very impressive names, namely Tyler Eifert. Because of that, he's got NFL experience. He's been around the business long enough to keep a job for around 15 years. I'm gonna go with a 6. Again, solid hire here. As for notable players, Jordan Ta'amu, the quarterback, really does have my eye. I loved him coming out of college. I think he's mobile. He's got one hell of an arm on him, but a very real prospect. You've got Marquette King, the once franchise punter, and running back Christine Michael, who I think could also be a really good name to watch. They get a 7.5 on that front. As for former Eagles, Carlton Agudosi and Jay Liggins are the two most notable that were around the Eagles this season. I love Jay Liggins. I interviewed him during the offseason for PhillySportsNetwork.com. You couldn't ask for a more grounded, more hardworking guy. He has got the range needed to play the position. He absolutely shone at the NAIAA level. And then you've got Carlton Agudosi, who was a behemoth of a wide receiver that showed some toe drag swag in preseason. They also got Matt Jones and Harold Jones-Corty. We're going to give this a 9. This is very, very good. There are some likable names here. Which means, despite their worrying name, the St. Louis Battlehawks come storming into the lead with a PLJ score of 39.5. 6 down, 2 to go. And the Seattle Dragons, again, looks like and sounds like something out of Madden. And the logo is shocking. Alright, it's shocking. It's a 2 out of 10. The jersey.
So I was like,
don't get me started. I don't get the green bits on the sleeve. I get the little flame on the legs, but outside of that, it's a bit weird, isn't it? It looks like you've just tried to mix colours together. There's too much going on for it. It's a no from me. It's another 2 out of 10, boys. Their head coach is going to be Jim Zorn, someone that, believe it or not, actually played as a player for the Seattle Seahawks and then went on to coach them for a little bit as well, alongside plenty of other NFL franchises, but he hasn't coached since 2012, so we're expecting a little bit of rust. However, he went undrafted in my favourite year, which is 1975, so as a result, we're going to give it a 5 out of 10. He gets a half-point boost for that. For notable players, there's only one I can find, and that's cornerback Channing Stribling, who again, I liked out of college. Outside of that, it's not great. And then you've got former Eagles, where you've got Godwin Igwebike, who was a safety that was on the team recently. You get a 1 out of 10 for both. That is disgraceful. There should be more names I know. Where is Sam Bradford? The Seattle Dragons get a dismal 9 out of 50 on the Pro LJ Focus scale, sending them right to the bottom of the rankings. Finally, the Tampa Bay Vipers. First thing that stands out, I love that font. That is a sexy font. The logo, it's nice. It does the job. It tells you what the team is. It's a Viper. The colours, the uniforms. Imagine if Oregon's uniforms were designed by a 7-year-old, and that's where we're at. I think overall, they're nice. It looks a little bit like a lizard and a little bit less like a viper. So, midnight green would have been sick, but beggars can't be choosers. It's a 6 out of 10 for both. Their head coach is set to be Mark Trestman, someone that has had most of his success over in the CFL and is a 3-time Grey Cup champion and a 2-time CFL Coach of the Year. But he did start out as a player for the Minnesota Vikings way back in 1979 and has worked as a positional coach for pretty much every franchise ever. By that I mean about 6. His most recent NFL experience was with the Baltimore Ravens as their offensive coordinator. This is again a solid hire and someone that more importantly can develop a quarterback, considering they've got a hybrid player in Quinton Flowers who can play QB and running back, along with Aaron Murray, who has long been a developmental arm in the NFL. It says a lot. They've also got Chase Litton there, but I think this could be the perfect coach to groom up those arms, so I reckon we're going to give it an 8. That's a nice hire. As for notable players, I really like 2 receivers on their roster, Antonio Callaway and Stacey Coley. Both of them had gushing tape coming out of college. Their NFL careers didn't go as intended, but who knows, maybe the XFL will breathe second wind into their careers. So we're going to give that a 5. And as for former Eagles, Shontavious Jones, who was with them for an off-season, so that's a point. Which gives them a final score of 26 out of 50 on the LJ scale. As you can see, it's not bad. And here are the final rankings, which hopefully have helped give you a new XFL team. Are you a St. Louis Battlehawk, honouring the legacy of Sam Bradford with the Rams with myself? Or are you instead going to go for the underdog with whatever's going on with the Seattle Dragons? Who knows? But let me know your XFL team down in the comments, guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time.